I am so excited to be here today and welcome you to my podcast, Beyond Balance. This is Lisa Collum, and you guys are going to want to hear her story. She's such an incredible woman. She has built her business, her seven-figure business from the ground up. She's a mom of four. And she's really taken the thing that she is most passionate about and turned it into her life mission. And this is something that, I've talked a lot about in the last little while, purpose. Finding your purpose right now in a society where things are changing so quickly. We all have these very unique gifts and the reason that we're here. And finding the thing that makes you excited to get up in the morning every single day, the thing that it doesn't matter if you get paid to do or not, which, by the way, if you do it, you do end up getting paid very well and you hone your skills. And it's something that can leave a legacy for your family, which is exactly what Lisa is doing. But I want to welcome her today. She is the owner of Top Score Writing, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about that and how she developed that program. She owns her own nonprofit school now. And what's really fascinating, so she's in Florida, and what's really fascinating is her first year of writing the curriculum to help kids learn writing. She took them from a 38% pass to a 95% pass rate, which to me speaks volumes about how much you care about teaching the curriculum and how much you care about these kids. But Lisa, thank you so much for being here today. And I would just love for you to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about how this all came to be, like where you started, where you are right now, and we'll go into where you're going.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. So yes, I'm a mom of four. My kids are almost 17, 14, 11, and 6. So I had my three boys, and then I got my girl as my fourth. So it only took 4 times. So, but I kind of like have this widespread. I have my high school, my middle school, my elementary, and my kindergartner. So I've got every level going. And like you said, I'm the author and owner of Top Score Writing and the owner of Coastal Middle and High School. So none of that was in the plans. But I'm so glad because, education has always been my passion. And anytime I tell my story, I always tell the very beginning, which as my mom tells me, when she would come in my room when I was 4 and 5 years old, she could hear me talking and I'd have my stuffed animals lined up on my bed and I'd be teaching. All the time. I even got a chalkboard for Christmas when I was 5 years old and would just teach. I was always teaching. I loved playing school. Everyone who knew me, middle school, high school, Lisa was going to be a teacher. Like that was just, you could ask anyone, no questions asked. So when I graduated college, I was 21 and I went straight to a school and I ended up getting a job at the lowest Title I low performing school in my county. So most of the students were below grade level. Most students were struggling in school. I think 90% of them spoke a different language. They were our English language learners. And so it was a tough group, but I was like super excited. So I was like, it's fine. I got this. Just tell me what I'm teaching. And the principal says, you're teaching writing. And so I'm like, okay, that wasn't ever my strong suit, or not that it was my strong suit, it just wasn't my thing. I guess I was more of a reading person coming out of college because college elementary education is so much on reading and math that I thought, okay, really writing's not my forte, but I got this. So I said, what curriculum am I using? Give me my books and I'll use those and I'll figure it out and teach the students. And they said, there's nothing for writing. And that kind of started my journey on figuring out that there's really not a lot of options for teaching just writing. What you'll find a lot in any school is have writing kind of sprinkled throughout them. Or you'll find like a little writing book on like grammar or a little writing book on paragraphs, but nothing as a full curriculum that a teacher or a parent could follow with day-to-day lessons that keep building like any other thing in the world, that you're teaching. You want something that you can do daily with repetition and practice. So I thought, well, I got to figure this out. This is my first year. I'm determined. So I just thought I'm going to go back to basics. And I knew that my first day when I said, we're going to write an essay, all the kids looked at me like I was crazy and thought, they're like, I can't even write a sentence. How am I going to write an essay? And I thought, okay, let me make this not overwhelming for them. So I decided to break down the entire essay into pieces. And I know from all my education that repetition and practice, we know that works best with students. So I thought, I'm just going to break it down and do lots of practice. And I did that. And right away, I started to see them getting it. And then we were breaking it down into such little pieces that after a few months, when we finally had a whole essay, they all were like, whoa, I wrote an essay. And I was like, yeah, you did. And see, it wasn't that hard because we broke it down and we worked on all the pieces separately. And so that first year, they went from 38% to 95% of them passing. So, of course, that was a great thing. But then the second year, I got 100% of my students to pass, which led me to be investigated by the Department of Education. And then the third year, I got 100% of my students to pass, and I got investigated again.
Because they didn't believe that these kids could do that, right? They didn't believe that these kids that were under that grade level could actually raise. And here's something that is really cool too, is that you reversed engineered their goal, right? Instead of giving them an essay or like you have to read a book and then do an essay, you're like, hey, let's start at the very basics so that we can work our way up there.
That's it. Because I thought, you tell any kid, I mean, you're going to write an essay. They're like, I don't know if I can. But if you just, you tell them the goal, but we're going to break it down and start small and we're going to work on little pieces, that's attainable to a kid. That's like, okay. And slowly they start seeing that. So yeah, the Department of Education, well, really anyone, no one ever got 100%. So it was kind of like an unheard of thing. But then I got 100% at a school that was low performing. Right. So it's this, we're graded, schools get A, B, C, D, or F, and it was an F school. And so it was just kind of, it stood out, and everything was always cleared after the investigation. But it was, stressful during that time. But from there, I was able to become like a writing coach and then a writing specialist. And I got to help tons of teachers in my district, but still not one little time did it ever cross my mind about starting a business. That was not me. If you would have asked me, I would have laughed. But it was after about 10 years of doing writing and being a coach and specialist that I got a job teaching online. I'd had my third baby and I just wanted to be home. I thought, I'm working all the time. This is the online teaching sounded like a dream because I could be at home with the kids. So I got that job, and not 2-3 days later, my phone, my emails do not stop ringing. Everyone that I used to work with for 10 years saying, where'd you go? You helped us. We need you. And they said, can you just write it all down and put it in a binder? And I laughed. And then I said, what are you talking about? They said, just start a business and write it down. We'll buy it. And I laughed again. I said, I have no clue even what to do. Like, I am a teacher. I don't have time for that. They said, Lisa, I promise you, just write it down, charge us what everyone to charge, and please just do this. We need it. Our teachers, our students. Wow. And of course, the educator in me thought, okay, I can't let them down. So I literally typed a binder in a matter of a week. I had 20 lessons. I started selling it. I sold 2, 5, 10. I took my kids to Disney because I had an extra $500 for finally once in my life. My husband and I were both teachers making $38,000 a year. So, that extra money was awesome. But it started with me going to Google, and I remember, I can still see this in my head when I did this. I Googled, how do you start a business in Florida? And it took me to the first link, and I followed the steps. And I picked S Corp. Thankfully, I picked the right one, but I was like, oh, I don't know, S Corp, C Corp, LLC, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I came up with a name. I paid the fee, and that's how it all started. And I took $100 and started it. So it's crazy because like I said, I would have never said I was going to start a business, but now we're a nationwide company.
Wow, congratulations. And I've seen you featured on the news. I've seen you featured in different articles. I mean, I'm sure it's been quite overwhelming to actually sit down and realize the impact that you've made because you cared about these kids so much and you cared about their education. Because what usually happens, and it happens in the Canadian school system too, is that it doesn't matter what their education level is. They pass them on to the next grade. They pass them on to the next grade. They pass them on to the next grade. And then at some point in time, it catches up and it becomes a big issue, right?
It's huge. It's why I have my school.
Right. And so I would love for you to talk a little bit about your school and how that came to be, because you're right. You never set out to own a school, a private school, a nonprofit school, which I think is absolutely incredible. But obviously all of these steps brought you to that place, which is, so interesting because we think that we have this big vision for our lives, and you absolutely wanted to be a teacher. But what I've learned over the last few years is that your path evolves and it becomes something else as it evolves. And really, the next right step is always presented to you, right? It's always like people were like, I have to have your curriculum. Please write it out. I'll buy it. I'll sell it to people. I'll share it with everybody, right? And so you created a huge business that way. And then you started, looking into other things so I want to hear the story about the school and like how that all came to be.
Yeah. And kind of going with what you just said, I think it's just, education's my passion for sure. But it's just kind of following these different things that have happened and these opportunities without overthinking. And I feel like I kind of just jumped into things and thought, well, if it doesn't work, because I did teach online for 4 years, why I built Top Score Writing on the side. I was just doing it slowly, but in that fourth year, Top Score Writing took off. And that's when I ended up leaving my full-time teaching job. But at that same time, I decided to have a fourth baby because I'm like, let's have another one. See if we get a girl this time. And so now prior to that, kind of the backstory with my school is that the school that I ended up buying was open for about 30 years. And my brother, who's younger than me, was not a school kid. I mean, literally failed everything his 8th grade year. 9th grade year was skipping every single day, attendance problems. I mean, just hated school. And he ended up dropping out. So my mom found this private school and she said, Lisa, it's a hole in the wall. She goes, but I think he's really going to like it. It's really different. And I said, okay, let's see how this goes. And within 2, 3, 4 months, she's telling me, Lisa, he's never missed a day, never left early, never skipped. He's begging me for summer school. He's staying late. He's getting all A's, B's, and C's. And I'm like, what? So me being this was when I was first teaching, I drive to this school and I go in and I remember kind of being shocked because in public school, it's almost, a good thing if you're super quiet, when you walk in class, like everyone's sitting up straight and tall and it's quiet. In actuality, that's a bad thing because you want kids talking, but we'll get into that later. But so I walk in this private school and, the kids got their feet kicked up on the chairs or the desks. And then some are like in their pajamas and some are in just hoodies and sweats and everyone just kind of, looks like they're hanging out. But once I got in there for an hour, I watched them in this deep, engaging conversation. It was a history lesson. I don't remember what it was with the teacher. And I remember thinking that was the most impactful thing I think I've ever heard students say, because you're so used to worksheets and tests and answering questions. But everyone was engaged in conversation. I always say, if you can talk about it, you know it. I don't need you to take a test, right? If you can tell me about it and present, you know it. And so I ended up talking with the owner after, and he was also the teacher. It was just him and his wife. And he was telling me that he started it for his kids. And so we had this long conversation and I go to walk out the door and I turn around, I look at him and I said, when you don't want this anymore, call me. And so for about 10 to 12 years, we stayed in contact. I would go by the school a lot. And then when I had my fourth baby, the month I had her, he calls and says, the school's all yours if you want it. Now, he had graduated all the kids. There were no kids. So I was basically starting from scratch. He said, you can make it your own. So I turned around to my husband and I said, I'm going to buy a school. And he said, what? And I said, yeah. Now, all his...
I love when we do that, by the way. When we have a crazy idea, we're like, we're just going to roll with it.
And everyone makes fun of me because it's kind of like that movie, I Bought a Zoo. They're like, you bought a school. Yeah. And, my husband had all his degrees are in school administration. That's what he does. So he's used to running a school. And then he's like, I've just been a teacher. So he's kind of like, are you sure you know what you're going to do? I'm like, nope, but I'm going to figure it out. And I just knew something inside me knew that like, this was what I needed to keep going for the kids. There were kids that needed this small environment, kids that needed this different way of instruction. And so I bought the school and I did the same thing I did with Top Score. I started small. I had 1 kid. I had 3 kids. I kept it at 7 kids for about 2 years. And then it slowly just started growing. And as I found more time and the ability to hire people, and then, now we're a full private school that we have a waiting list all year long. So, just another thing that, luckily I just saw the opportunity. It was my passion, and I knew that this was something I could do forever. Even if I decided to sell my other business one day, my school, I turned into a 501c3. So it's a nonprofit. I don't really, no one really pays out of pocket. So I just knew it was a passion that I could do forever.
Well, I, for one, and I'm sure a lot of my listeners are really grateful for people like you who care so deeply about our kids learning. We talked a little bit before we started this discussion online and before we started recording for a podcast, but the way that the school system is set up right now is broken. It's my belief. And I just think we're packing kids into a classroom where they have different learning styles. There's too many kids with too many different things that need attention, right? There's not enough teachers, there's not enough support, and there's not enough time to be able to put into those kids to help them make it through, because it's not that people have learning disabilities, that they have different learning styles. Like I said to you before,
Yeah.
I memorized stuff. I was expected to get straight A's. I didn't know it. I just memorized it. And then when I went to university, I tanked because it wasn't my learning style. And it took me a really long time to realize it wasn't that I was stupid. It wasn't that I wasn't intelligent. It was that I didn't learn in that way.
That way. Yep.
Right. And so what I love about what you've created, and you've created an environment for kids where it doesn't matter how they learn, but that there's discussions involved and there's time and care involved in their education, which is kind of being glossed over right now in the school system, that I think really needs to be restructured as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, we're not really setting our kids up for life. It's a lot of memorization,
Right.
and we're just passing them along, like you said earlier, and we're just trying to just almost like just put it out there to them, whether they get it or not, how well they learn it or not, and just get them through. And it's a sad situation because as a teacher who, I have a soft spot for teachers in general. I try to support teachers as much as I can. They're just in a bad situation where they can't even do anything. If you're being told you're having 40, 50 in a class and to pass as many as you can and get this done and this done, you're given this list of what needs to be done and when testing is, and it's just a lot, and you're just doing the best that you can. And so it's hard to keep track of every kid, and every kid's different. And I always give this example, with my oldest can be in a class with 40 kids. All his classes have 40 plus kids. He has no issues whatsoever. My third is in a private school with 8 kids in his class because he has issues, like he will goof off or start looking at the ceiling, or, he just needs that more small group instruction style learning. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think that, we just as parents have to see that and not compare our kids, because it's one thing if he gets straight A's. Well, I don't care if you don't get straight A's. That means nothing to me, right? No. When you go to get a job, no one's going to say, "Did you get straight A's?"
Right. Nobody cares.
Like and I even on social media, I always try to, when it's report card time, say, congratulate the A, B, and C kid, because there's nothing wrong with that. If you tried your best, I think that we're basing things on grades, and it should be more about the whole child and making sure that they're ready for life and they're ready, they're kind, can be around people, things like that. So unfortunately, it's just a bad situation. And I think that we just have to start figuring out on our own what our kids need and relaying that to the teachers, and or finding a different environment if that's a possibility.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's really interesting is when you start to think about, how we were raised with a generation of parents that, get good grades, get a good job, go to university, get a pension and healthcare. And like that life doesn't exist anymore. Like the definitely jobs out there that you need to go to university and you get educated, you want to become a doctor or a lawyer or something that you need that. Okay, absolutely. But our world has changed so quickly in the last couple of years that kids aren't necessarily going into a part-time job anymore. They're doing DoorDash because they're making more money, right? Or
Yep.
something that, and so to let kids follow their passions. And this is something that, it's so funny. When we got our first dog, my husband and I, before we had kids, I read 3 dog training books. Okay. I was like, I'm going to make sure this dog is the best dog ever. When I had Izzy, when I was pregnant, I read 1 parenting book, and I was like, you know what, we'll just kind of wing it with how we feel. But the one parenting book was called The Conscious Parent. And what it made me realize is for so many years, I was influenced by my parents on, taking the safe route, and like, you got to be responsible and you got to do all this, and like, we're fit into a box, right? And I just realized in this one book, our job is to support our kids and who they're becoming, whether they're a mechanic, whether they're a famous actor, whether they are somebody that really enjoys city planning, right? Whatever it is that they have a passion for, you just wholeheartedly support them in that, and our kids will thrive in that environment, right? And they'll find their learning style that works for them. They'll find the things that they're passionate about and want to learn about. And if you can gear them towards that, then you don't have kids that disengage because they're not interested.
Right, right. And I think it's also important to support them in maybe different paths along the way, like realizing I don't want to do this, I want to do something. Like, there's nothing wrong with changing or pivoting when you're 25, 35, 45. Like, you got this one life that seems like it's really a long time. But, I always say that I didn't ever want to, be 70, 80 sitting on my porch thinking about what if I did that, or what if I did buy that school? I wonder what my life would have been like. And so I think it's important to realize what you enjoy doing, what your passion is, what your gift is, and trying it out and see if that works for something that you can, turn into your daily living, your job that you do every single day, because that'll make you happy as a person. And that's your gifts. I think we've got to acknowledge that and use it.
And they evolve over time. These gifts evolve over time, right? So I joked with you previously that you're a 14-year overnight success, right? You were 10 years as a writing coach and specialist. You developed your curriculum, took 4 years to get that off the ground while you were doing it part-time. So many people think, well, I could never follow my passion because I have to work full-time. And it's like, well, no, you can start building those things on the side. You can start finding a way to make it fit in, right? And find a way to show up in a way that's important to you. And helps you do the thing that you love every day. And you can do many jobs that way, right? Yeah. Because just because you were in education and you're a teacher doesn't mean that you can't educate outside of a school, right? Or like, you can use those skills and transition in different jobs. So, that evolution, that, how it comes to be, we talked a little bit about how most people think they need $100,000 or a couple $100,000 in the bank to start a business. So can you talk a little bit about like how this kind of all evolved? You said you made $38,000 a year as a teacher, and your husband did the same. Like, that's not a lot of money when you're raising 4 kids.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, going back to like, just what you read in books or you see in movies or you hear from other people, is I had this idea that to run a business, you needed a business degree and at least $100,000 and a fancy big office and a really big team. And so that's why I laughed when someone talked about me running a business. I thought, I don't make anywhere. I probably have $100 left a month, if that. And there's no way I can get an office and a team. And so the way that I did it, just because it ended up being that way, is what I try to preach now, because that's really the best way when you're in a position like I was, where you have kids and bills and you can't just quit your job. Like, I think the world can't do that. Some can, but there are a lot that can't. Started on the side, and there were, I took $100 that I had left over that month and I printed 1 binder. I sold it. I took that money. I printed 2 binders. I sold those 2. I took that money. I printed 5 binders. I never printed 100 at a time and had them all in stock and a pretty shelf in an office. I was working out of my living room. Every evening I was packing boxes. Well, we had like an assembly line, my whole family. I went to UPS every single day before my full-time job started. I went to UPS so much that I just went there a couple weeks ago to get something notarized. And I haven't been there in years. And she goes, oh my gosh. She goes, I can't believe it's you. She goes, how's the UPS baby doing? That's what they called my 4th daughter, the UPS baby, because she was a newborn. I'd go in there, I'd hand her off to them. They were the sweetest people ever. And I'd bring in, 10, 15 boxes while they're changing my baby's diaper on the UPS table in the back. So, it's funny because that's how it all started. And then slowly, As I made more money, then I was able to get a print shop that printed my books. And I was able to get someone to do the shipping. And I was able to hire my first team member. But that all came over years. And I think it's important for everyone to know that even if it never turns into your full-time business, if you have something that's yours and you're getting to do your passion. So let's say you're, I don't know, a lawyer all day. Let's just say that, but you love baking. And in the evenings, on the weekends, you bake different types of cupcakes and muffins and you sell them at the farmer's market on Sunday. You will be so much happier inside. You will be fulfilling this part of you because that's your passion. So even if it's just your side hustle forever, that's okay. I just think that we all need to figure out what we really want to do and try to make it something that we can do part-time or hopefully it'll go into full-time. And I can't even explain what it's like, to know that like I'm taking what I use and being able to share it with thousands of other people. And then like I was telling you earlier with my school, you get kids that come in that say, I failed everything. I'm behind. I hate school. This isn't going to work. And then they graduate. Like, that's just it. There's
That's
no
what you do it for.
way to get that fulfillment. Yeah, exactly.
Well, and the fact that you've impacted tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of kids, because you took the time to create a curriculum that would make sense to them, that would actually help them move through. One of the quotes that I say all the time is become something no one can take from you. Right. So whether that's your side hustle, like I know a woman that makes mugs at the market back home and she loves it. It's her passion. And she was able to leave her job doing that, and eventually that's kind of what happens if it's something that you're really passionate about, because nobody has to motivate you. Nobody has to inspire you. You just get up in the morning because you have this purpose about you. And that purpose is something over the next 10 years, I think is going to be so freaking important for people as technology takes over jobs, as AI takes over jobs, having that sole purpose of like, why am I here? If a job is like disappears, okay, well now it's like a rebirth. Like you get an opportunity to live in alignment with who you are and what you want to do in this world and the legacy you want to leave. Right. And that's what you're doing with these kids, is that you're giving them a chance to live and develop and grow in society and make an impact. And that's something that I really believe in, that, you have 4 kids, so you can have kids and raise them consciously. You can make great money and have a great career. You can make a massive impact by working at home, right? You don't have to have a big office and all the employees. You can add 1 employee at a time, which is exactly how I've grown my business too, because I'm like, how do you even do this? I had a very similar story. That when I started my salon, I was like, I don't have a business degree. So I'm like Googling how to start, where to get a business name. What do I have to do for taxes? I need to hire a bookkeeper because I don't know how to do that. Right. Like, and so you start, and that's the thing is like, you just need to take 1 small action step a day. That's it.
And I tell everyone, it's not about, everyone wants this perfect plan, right? Or it's like, I'm not ready yet. I don't have everything laid out. Don't worry about the plan. Okay. You can have an idea of what it's going to look like, but the plan will never, ever work because you've got to figure that plan out along the way. And you've got to be ready to pivot and do things based on, what's happening as you're building that path. And so I always have don't overthink it. If it fails, it fails. It's not that big of a deal. I'm not saying go put $50,000 into it. I'm saying start on the side. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. At least you tried, right? You'll never know unless you tried. And I think we're especially as moms, you overthink everything and it's scary. It's scary to try something because you're putting your time into it. What is everyone going to think? I didn't tell anyone, like, I'm in my 11th year of owning Top Score Writing. I didn't tell anyone I was an entrepreneur or CEO until 3 years ago. I told everyone I sold books on the side. That was my thing. And then I would say that I own Top Score. But when I was in a team meeting and it must have been 4 years ago, my 7th year I did. And they said, well, you're the author. And I thought, yeah, I wrote it, but I never ever called myself an author.
Like, I'm an author. Oh yeah.
I wrote like 28 books for curriculum and never ever owned up to that. Even owning my school, when I only had 3-4 kids, I said that I tutored kids. I would never say to people that I knew, like, I own a school, because I felt like it wasn't big enough. It was 5 kids. I feel like it wasn't real school. Wow. And I could slap that person from those years, because if you own it, I don't care if you're making $50 a week, you're an entrepreneur, you're the CEO of your company. It's a company, like it's your thing. And I think that everyone has something, a passion they enjoy doing. And I think every single person could start a side hustle.
Yeah.
And my message is always like, don't worry about the balance of momming and being a business. It all works out. There's no, I couldn't even tell you right now, I couldn't even tell you 5 things that to do to make it all work. It's this constant, oh, well, this works and that works. And let me try this and try that. And some days are balanced and some days are not balanced. But I think that's important. I think it's important for your kids to see over time that life's not always gravy, right? It's not always going to be a perfect balance of mom works and she's a great mom and she's always happy. And no, we have ups and downs. And there are times I work a lot, like 12, 14-hour days. And there are times I take half days and there are times I take off. And, I told you this before that, my almost 17-year-old has been with me, and my 14-year-old from the very beginning. They were packing boxes when they were 3 and 5. And to see them now, that's just something that I couldn't have paid for a course or read a book or anything to teach them the life skills, the life lessons they saw in this building of my businesses. And my hope is that my boys, see for their future wives that she can be a good mom and she can run a business, or she can be a stay-at-home mom, or she can have a job, whatever that path looks like, she can do it. She can do it all. There's no choosing. And I hope that my girl sees that she can do it all too. She doesn't need to, just be in the kitchen or just be working, or, there's just so many options. So those are things that, you can't teach kids, that they see it.
No.
And so as much as it's been, I have mom guilt all the time. I'm constantly in this debate in my head, but that's just that it is what it is. It never goes away. It comes and goes. And in the end, I think it's just an invaluable lesson that your kids will get nowhere else.
Yeah, they're definitely lucky to have you as their role model. And it's a priceless gift that we get to be role models for our kids, because they may not listen to everything that we say, but they're watching every little thing that we do. And for us to be able to show them that, hey, not everything works out all the time, that just because I hit a roadblock or a challenge doesn't mean that I'm going to give up, that there are going to be days that I'm frustrated and upset, or there's going to be days where we get to celebrate because we work so hard for a goal. Yep. And now here we are, right? And it's teaching kids hard work in this society of instant gratification where you can go to Amazon and click a button and it's there tomorrow. Like, most people have a skewed version of what success looks like and what it takes to get there, right? They think, oh, this is so challenging. Like, maybe I'm not set out to do this. And that was another thing in school, right? Either you're right or you're wrong. You're good or you're bad. And that's not how things are, right? That's not that, like, how I don't believe in teaching my daughter that. And one of the things that I strive to teach her and ingrain in her is, hey, we can do hard things. And if you don't win, you learn something, and then it helps you get better. Like, it's actually something to look forward to because you're going to learn a lesson. If you win, it's easy. Like, that's easy. Right. But when you lose, like, it's not a loss if it's only a loss if you don't learn something.
Yes, I love that. I always say that every failure is a lesson learned, and every lesson learned is a step towards success. It's almost like now, and I always share this because I want people to know, if they're in the beginning stages, like, there's going to be failures and setbacks and bumps in the road. Just know it. If someone would have told me that, I feel like I would be a little bit better. But I took everything as like, oh, my business is done, I got to close. Like,
but have those expectations, right? Yes, that the sun's going to go sideways today, and then it's not so bad.
Exactly. And when you have that expectation, I almost like smirk now and think, okay, I got it. What are we going to learn from today? I got it. But it took years of like this constant, like, whoa, I'm going to close. Okay, we're good. Oh, this is happening, and now I just go around it. Right. And just pivot and move on. But yeah, I think I was telling my director of my school the other day, because, things always happen. And I said, I just smirk and think, what are we going to learn from this one? Or how are we going to pivot from this one? Because that's just life. And I try to, reiterate that to my kids as well. When they walk in and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, are you stressed? I'm like, yes, this is happening. I'm like, but it's going to be okay, because we're going to figure this out. And they just kind of laugh too, because it's just it doesn't matter if it's a business, job, family, that's just life.
Yeah, and having that mindset, right? Because as women, we tend to overanalyze things, right? And we'll go over and over like, oh, I should have done this. I should have done this. I did a meme the other day that said I woke up at 3 a.m. and I thought of something I should have said in an argument in 2011.
Yeah, right.
Like, because you're constantly like, how could this have been different? How could I, whatever? And so instead of feeling that way and looking at it as a negative thing and compounding on losing confidence in that situation if something goes wrong, if you just shift your perspective just a tiny little bit, all of a sudden the world opens up to you and you can move forward faster. You're not sitting and wasting 2 weeks of time being like, oh, I can't believe I did that, or I can't believe that happened. You're like, okay, tomorrow's a new day. How are we going to change it? What's going to be new? So I love that mindset, Lisa. Is there anything else you want to leave my audience with? This has been such a great chat. I really enjoy speaking with you. I can't wait to do this again because I believe so fiercely in what you're doing and how you're helping the education community. But is there anything that you'd like to leave people with? Where they can find you?
Yeah. So yeah, the best place to find me is Instagram. That's like my most up to date. I try to stay on top of everything, but there's just not a lot of time left in the day.
Yeah.
So my Instagram handle is at Lisa Collum CEO. I also have a website, lisacollum.com, but my Instagram is definitely the most up to date for sure. And if you're interested in any writing curriculum, we do have, stuff for homeschooling parents. The website is topscorewriting.com. And I guess, I've said basically everything I would say to anyone, but kind of summing it all up is just for anyone out there, just go for it. We've got this one life, and I just want everyone to find their passion and be happy and be able to live their life to the fullest, because there's so many, our world has a lot going on, and I think that we owe it to ourselves and our family to be our best, and we've just got to figure out what that looks like, and just know it's going to be lots of different paths, but go for it, figure it out, and enjoy it, and just be positive about everything.
Oh, thank you so much. You are such a bright light in this sea of noise. I appreciate you so much for being here today, Lisa. If you would like to connect with her, please make sure that you reach out to her on Instagram. If you enjoyed what she had to say and you feel like you could share it with a friend, share it with a friend, because I think that the more we talk about, some of the things that are challenging in society today, the more we acknowledge those things, the bigger chance at change we have. So thanks again, Lisa. We'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
If you think this video can help a friend, make sure you share it.